What's going on, y'all? Jared Sandler here with our Rangers pregame news and notes. Rangers-Astros game 2 of this 4-game series. Stunk to lose last night, but it was an entertaining game. The Rangers fell 4-3 in 11 innings. We're going to get to a couple elements of that game here in a second. It's Wes Benjamin on the mound for the Rangers, Zach Greinke for the Astros. Maybe cool for Wes Benjamin to be paired up against Zach Greinke. He's a baseball nerd in a good way. You know, he appreciates the game and the history. Zach Greinke is likely a Hall of Famer, certainly one of the best, if not the best, active pitcher going in Major League Baseball, just from a total career achievement standpoint. Greinke ranks second in wins, second in innings, third in strikeouts, first in starts among active pitchers. He's got the best walk rate among active pitchers. So you got a guy who's certainly accomplished a lot, plus a Cy Young. Wes Benjamin maybe one day can get there. You know, I think he'd take half of that probably. He went down after having some control issues early on. That's uncharacteristic for Wes. It's not really a typical challenge that he faces. Also talked about getting the breaking balls, the slider and the curveball back on point. So I'm excited to see Wes. I think he's a guy who really has made some significant improvements over the last, we'll call it 18 months, to the point where, at least in my mind, he was just a guy, a really good guy. He's like an awesome dude, but just a guy who, maybe could eat some innings for you at the big league level, to now, I think this is a guy who could have an impact in the back of a rotation. I don't know that I've seen enough to say he's a number 2 or a number 3 at the big league level, but certainly someone who could fit as a major league starter. All right, I want to go to last night's game. 2 things. We'll start with one bad, and then we'll get to one good. The bad is the bottom or the top of the 10th. Rangers have men at the corners, nobody out. Obviously, tie game, tied at 3. Chris Davis is the batter. You've got Charlie Culberson at third. Chris Davis hits a dribbler up the third base line. Maybe not like a dribbler, like a swinging bunt, but a slow ground ball up the third base line that's fielded in front of the bag at third. So not hit hard enough for the ball to travel past the bag at third. The Astros end up turning a double play, and Charlie Culberson ends up having to stay put at third base. So the Astros get the best of both worlds. Not only do they get the double play, but no run scores, and the Rangers end up failing to score in that inning. That's a tough read for a base runner because, really, like, of all the places Chris Davis could hit that ball, that's like the one place and the one pace where it's tough for the base runner, because if you go too soon, the ball was hit hard enough to where if you go too soon, you're out at home. A basic throw that 90% of Americans who have played baseball could make gets you out at home. If you don't go and then go, like, hesitate, then you get tagged out, obviously. You've got to make the perfect read. And, I asked Chris Woodward after the game, what could Charlie Culberson have done differently? And I agree with what he said. It was sort of my thought. I didn't want to lead him down that path, but you go once the throw gets made to second, and you do it realizing that you're probably going to be out at home, but you're much better off forcing Jose Altuve, the second baseman, to make that throw to get you out in that situation than you are allowing Jose Altuve to just complete a routine double play turn. A few things, and I don't know that it's up to Charlie Culberson to process this specifically when he's at third, but Jose Altuve dealt with the yips last year in the postseason. And while he's graduated beyond that, it's not like he's Kyle Seager or Manny Machado, 2 guys known to have like impeccable accuracy. All it takes is a throw that's slightly high, a throw that's slightly low, a throw that's slightly wide, and that could create the lane Charlie Culberson needs to slide or dive in safely. Chances are Jose Altuve gets him out, but it's a more uncommon throw for Jose Altuve to receive a throw from a third baseman and then throw home than to just turn a double play and then leave it up to someone else to drive you in when the league batting average is 230. That's the other thing. If the league batting average is like 260, like it's been in past years, at least in my lifetime, but maybe not so recently, maybe it's different. But because hits are at such a premium, especially against relievers, I think I'd rather the Rangers have been guilty of over aggressiveness as opposed to playing it safe. I know that, from a base running standpoint, people always like to complain when a team gets thrown out on the bases because they're overly aggressive, but we always forget about the times when it works out to their advantage. And the Rangers over the years have been a very aggressive base running team. And while they are going to commit more outs on the bases than the average team, they also have a net positive in terms of their base running rating because of that aggression. And that's a situation where Charlie Culberson gets thrown out. People probably going to complain because then now you've got 2 outs and a runner at first as opposed to 2 outs and a runner at third. And now a single doesn't, give you the lead. And I get that, but I think I'd rather play the odds and take the chance in Charlie Culberson. All right. The good, Joey Gallo. The throw he made yesterday to get Chas McCormick at the plate, Miles Straw at the plate. It was Miles Straw or Chas McCormick? It was Chas McCormick, right? Chas McCormick. Yeah. Was impeccable. We know about Joey's arm strength, and Joey threw the ball, apparently, according to Sarah Lang's, her reading, 97.3 miles an hour. Unreal. I mean, that's remarkable. It's, I think, tied for the hardest throw in Major League Baseball from an outfielder this year, if I'm not mistaken. But I think what really stands out to me on that throw is the accuracy. We marvel at the arm strength because you and I can't do that, whereas we could play catch and make an accurate throw. I don't think people get as impressed with accuracy because it's something that's more attainable to the average person. Whereas, anyone in that building yesterday that was not a uniform member of the Rangers or Astros, however many fans they had at Minute Maid Park, none of them could do what Joey Gallo did from an arm strength standpoint. And because of that, none of them could make that throw on a line in the air to the catcher. But, there are people there that can make an accurate throw, right? We don't get as impressed with the accuracy, but that to me is what is so impressive. You can have the world's greatest arm, but a throw a little bit up the first base line, the third base line, a little high, maybe low, making it tougher for the catcher, and the game's over right there. I mean, it's not just like, hey, you need to be generally accurate, like, throw it within the zip code. No, you've got to be on point there. And Joey Gallo consistently makes strong and accurate throws. Colby Erasmus, he's a name that I thought about last night, former Astro. Great arm. Had a really tough time making accurate throws. Like, I remember a throw he made at Globe Life Park back in the heyday of the Rangers-Astros rivalry. I think he was playing left field, like threw it to the backstop, like the netting behind home plate in the air. Just like no accuracy on the throw. It was an incredibly impressively strong throw, but what does that accomplish? Nomar Mazara, former Ranger, is a guy who, when he first came up, had a strong arm. Accuracy was all over the place, and then really worked on it and became a much more accurate thrower. Your arm really isn't a weapon if you don't have the accuracy. And in that moment, to make that throw with that strength, but with that accuracy, knowing that any misstep and the game's over. The game is on the line. That's like a buzzer-beating shot, right? When you're down by 2, you need that 3, otherwise you lose. That was pretty impressive. So hats off to Joey Gallo for that. All right, tonight, and one of the things I want to talk about, this isn't necessarily specific to this matchup, but this is just the Astros in general. I remember looking in 2017. So some background. I thought the Astros in 2015 were a really good team. Obviously, the Rangers came back and took the division from them. I thought they'd come back in 2016, 1 year older, because they were a young team in 2015. And I thought that was, in my head, I was like, they might win the World Series in 2016. I was a year early. They won it in 2017. And as much as I want to make jokes and throw stones at, why and how the Astros won the World Series, let's just have a baseball discussion and separate that. One reason perhaps that they really struggled in 2016, they actually underachieved, and they ended up having a better year than how it started, but got off to a slow start. They struck out a ton, and they did in 2015 as well. The Astros in 2015 ranked 29th in Major League Baseball in strikeout rate. They ranked 27th in 2016. Okay, that's really bad. And then I remember looking early on in 2017 thinking, this is good for them, not good for anyone else. The Astros early on in 2017 established themselves as a team that did not strike out. They ended the year with the best strikeout rate among hitters in Major League Baseball. And by best, I mean they were the toughest team to strike out. And again, in 2018, they were up there. They were the second toughest team to strike out. In 2019, they were the toughest. In 2020, they were the toughest. And so far in 2021, they have been the toughest team to strike out. The Astros organizationally might have used some disposal techniques to help, but generally speaking, they were able to instill a philosophy that promoted the importance of contact. And if you've been following baseball, you know the Astros didn't do that and haven't done that at the expense of power. I mean, they have been among the most powerful, highest run scoring teams in baseball. It's not like their hitters are just hitting ground balls instead of striking out. But they made some roster upgrades, adding a guy like Michael Brantley, for instance, who's one of the toughest in Major League Baseball to strike out. They had guys, George Springer, who's no longer with them, was a big strikeout guy, but they got George Springer to make improvements upon that and start to maybe promote contact in two-strike counts more. And so, they made personnel changes, but they also preach the importance of things. And the Rangers, what the comparison I can make there is, the Rangers went from a team that walked a ton of guys to a team that walks very few. They're among the leaders there. And so sometimes, you can, as an organization, just by preaching things, help inspire a change. The Astros made a huge change, but I'm a big, a strikeout and a fly out to right oftentimes mean the same thing. When there's no runners on context, but just generally speaking, the ability to avoid the strikeout is super important. No one's going to argue that, because when you put the ball in play, you give yourself a chance. In a vacuum, when with 2 outs and a runner at third, Joe Bob McGee strikes out versus grounds out versus flies out makes no difference. But the over the long term, the practice of putting the ball in play is going to help you. And the Astros have been really, really good at that. And I just wanted to point that out, that as the Rangers, try and get from where they were last year offensively back to where they've been in the past, which is among the best in the league, they've got to be better at putting the ball in play. The Rangers this year ranked 26 in terms of strikeout rate. So that's something that's got to go up. There you go. That's our Rangers preview, game news and notes. Rangers Astros tonight. Let's beat those Astros. Talk to y'all later.